I'm thankful for how I grew up. I hear all the time, you got an old soul. Yeah, I do. Because I grew up around old people. And they became like my second family. And I firmly believe that, where a man grew up, um, his community, where a man was raised has a big part in who that man ultimately becomes. So, with me personally, I grew up in Mobile, Presley, Thomasville area, Trinity Gardens, Pritchard, that whole area was really where I was born and raised at. And so a lot of times now when I ride back through my old community and I see where I grew up and I see the old streets and old schools and playgrounds where I was born and raised at, and I realized like, man, it it hit me like, man, this really did shape me as a man. Like it helped me become the man I am today, good and bad. I just realized how much that made me a man. And when I was about 5, my mom took a job as a live-in nurse's aide at a retirement home over in Thomasville. And at that age, 5, I didn't care. Next door we had a playground over there. Down the street we had Figures Park. I go down there and play basketball. I didn't really care about living in a retirement home at 5. It was only supposed to be for 1 year. Ended up being 8 years. So from age 5 to 13, here I am living with old people. You know what I'm saying? And as I got a little bit older, 11, 12, 13, I'm like, yo, mama, we gotta we gotta get up out of here, man. Like I can't just be living with these people, at 13. So she knew I was getting older. So we got our own house and everything. And I go back by there, and about a year and a half ago they tore it down. And I remember just watching them tear this building down where I grew up. And my mom passed away maybe 5 months before that. And I was like, man, it just hit me like, this was a big part of me. You know what I mean? Like, a man is only as good as his surroundings. And I'm thankful for how I grew up. I hear all the time, you got an old soul. Yeah, I do. Because I grew up around old people. And they became like my second family. Because my dad's side, I didn't never knew them. So they became like my second family. You feel me? And so I definitely believe, I'm a firm believer that where a man grows up, how he grows up, ultimately play a big part in what that man becomes as a man. I feel like a man has traits, right? So ain't no one man gonna be the same as this man. This 45-year-old man over here with 3 kids and a wife, his mindset may not be the same as a 32-year-old with no kids and single. You know what I'm saying? So um being a man, we got different layers, different traits to being a man. You know. Um when I hear the word man, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear the word man is God. And the reason why I say God is because God made man in his image. We were the first thing that God made in his likeness. So the top trait for a man is to be one with God. You got to have God in some way as a man. You have to, right? That ain't saying you got to be holier than thou. You got to be some, master, Christian. But a man can't fully know his value as a man without knowing God. I know gangsters right now who can quote me Bible scriptures. You see dudes who wear the crosses and tattooed with praying hands, and all that is God stuff. They know something about God. So a man has to have God. He has to know God in some way. If he don't know God, in my opinion, he can't fully know himself yet as a man. You know what I mean? So the top trait is God. You know, me personally, I get in my Bible and daily try to. I pray to him because God created us in his image. He wants men especially, to be close to him. So a man has to have God. If you got that, then you transition into the second trait that I think a man has to have, which is a man has to be a leader. God made us to be fit to lead, right? So when I think about great leaders, I think about, of course, Jesus. I think about Dr. King, Malcolm X. Me being a filmmaker, I look at Tyler Perry, I look at Spike Lee or John Singleton. Like, those men are great leaders. And it's two things that to me makes a great leader. The first thing is you can't be selfish. You know what I'm saying? I ain't never seen a you know a good leader who's selfish. You got to be unselfish to be a good leader, because even though you leading, you out in front, you got to be ready and willing to sacrifice what you want and what you need for the greater good of those who you're leading. So you have to know how to, make sacrifices as a leader and be unselfish. You know what I mean? Second trait as a leader, you gotta know how to get the best out of those who you're leading. For example, the way you may come at him may not be the same way you come at her. You feel me? You gotta know you know, how to get the best out of each individual, because everyone don't respond the same. You know what I mean? So being a leader it ain't an easy job all the time. It gets hard, but that's one of the main traits that a man has to have, is being a leader, right? So the third trait, and this is one that I'm pretty sure most women gonna love this one: provider, right? That's the biggest one that people love to throw out there. Being a provider, true. Yes, a man has to be a provider, but it's not just money. It ain't just money. Money is in there, but you got to be loving, caring, understanding. You got to be providing more than just money, because suppose you're a man, you paying all the bills in the house. Your woman, her hair done, nails done, kids got all the toys, games they want, but you ain't making no basketball games, recitals. Your wife coming home, she's sick or she needs some comfort, and you like, man, nah, I ain't here, whatever. Yeah, you're providing financially for them, but you're not providing those other areas that a man has to provide. Being a man has to be able to do both. Got to be nurturing, caring, gentle, and then sometimes you got to be firm and hard, and put his foot down. He has to provide all those things. So a provider is a big part of being a man, and it ain't just money. I know a lot of men who got money, but they not good husbands, they not good fathers, they just got money. So that's not a provider to me. You have to be checking off every list, everything on that checklist to be considered a real provider. You know what I mean? The last trait that I feel a man has to have, which I can go on and on all day long about different traits, but these are just my top four. So I started with spiritual, God, then leading, providing. The fourth one is a man has to be a protector. You gotta protect your household, protect your kids, protect your family, protect your wife, your girl, whatever. And that don't always mean you gotta fight, physically fight. It don't always mean you gotta go out and grab a gun and sometimes it might come to that. But, you know, like I was just saying earlier, being spiritual, praying for your family, praying for your household. You know what I'm saying? That's protecting. You know what I'm saying? Making sure your kids making the right decisions in life, or making sure that your wife or your girl or whoever you're with, you know, making sure they making the right decisions in life. Making sure you letting them know that you got their back no matter what. You know, they got somebody to fall back on. If they fall, you dare to say, "Hey, look, nah, I got you." So, you know, protecting your family and your loved ones is a major trait that a man has to have, in my opinion. You know, um, just with me, I never had a positive father figure growing up. You know, um, a lot of the things that I learned about being a man, I learned from watching other men. Ironically enough, the barbershop. I remember when I was a kid, it was this old guy in there. He was talking about how, you know, how a man is supposed to protect his family, and he was giving a story about how a guy was in his house one day, broke in, and he shot the guy. And he said, "Listen," he was like, "I shot him not because you know I wanted to kill this brother, but my main focus was my wife and my kids outside, this door." And he said, I shot the man, and I killed him, self-defense. But he said, even though it hurt him to have to do that, his main instinct kicked in as a man was to make sure his kids and his wife were protected. You know what I'm saying? And I remember being a kid, I was like, man, it empowered me as a kid hearing this, because that, in my mind and in my eyes, was a man who loved his family enough to protect them with his own life if need be. You know what I'm saying? So, um, above all else, man, in closing, you know, I think people have a big misconception about what a man is. Every man is different. You know what I mean? I hear, a lot of women and some men trying to compare this man to that man to that man. You can't compare me. You can't compare, you know what I'm saying? If you see a man out there, he's trying to get better. He's making steps to get better in his life. Give that man some patience, man. A man, men, we definitely go through a lot. And, I think as men, us starting to open up more and letting women and other men as well know what's in our mindset as men. I think will be a big help in understanding the mind or the lifestyle of a man. Whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, a man is a man. And the one thing about myself, whether I'm a good man or whether I'm a bad man, the one thing that no one can take from me is that I am definitely a man, for a fact. And that's when it boils down to it. It's all that matters.